Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Song of Ice and Fire Game of Thrones tabletop campaign after the fire. We are back in what is probably going to be our penultimate episode of the campaign. I think there's enough here in my notes that we're going to need to pick up another session just to wrap things up. But before then, let us see what is going to happen to our victims, I guess. Hi everyone, let's go around, have a chat, let's see how everyone's doing. Don is first on our little overlay thing here. Everyone's in the right place, aren't they? Yes, good. Hi Don, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Missed this game and logged into our campaign today and was quickly reminded of my character Samuel Tarley's current condition, which is not good. It's not good. But yeah, I've been good. I've been busy working, as always, and looking forward always to seeing all the terrible decisions people make in this game. I missed you all.
And we missed you. Yeah, it's been a minute, hasn't it? Yeah, things have been a bit busy for us, but yeah, now we're getting back into it, which is good. I'm very, very, very excited. And V, hello, friend.
Hi.
What have you been up to recently?
Work and prepping for UK Games Expo is everything right now. So
I remember you saying you were going with RP Haven, right?
I am, yeah, I'm down there. I get the lucky job of just taking lots of photographs and videos and getting to wander around and do that. So
Easy
I've
peasy.
lucked out here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get a room to myself. So
You don't have to try and sell things or talk to people. Sounds like my perfect convention.
yeah, pretty much. Not that we sell anything anyway. We're mostly just like, hey, you want to start a roleplay club? That's our whole shtick. So yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But my life is like doing work, trying to finish work before UK Games Expo, so I don't have to come back to a load of work, and then prepping stuff for RP Haven for UK Games Expo. So
nice. Well, good luck with it all.
thank you.
And enjoy it. And Susie, how are you
Hello.
since yesterday?
I'm good. I'm good. If you didn't see me yesterday, I'm just tootling on as ever, working and being bullied by my friends. We'll see if this is the third day on the trot that my friends here who claim to profess to, love me and care about me, bully me relentlessly again on the internet for all of your amusement. I'm probably going to go with yes, that's going to happen. So do tune in for that.
Look,
yeah,
we're
hang your head
British
in
friends,
shame.
okay?
Hang your head in shame,
Deprecating
Samantha.
humour is how we express our love.
But no, I've missed this campaign. I've missed this game, and I can't wait for all the juice and the final shenanigans. I'm very worried that Sam says her notes are going to last 2 sessions because
I just know what you're all like. That's all.
Mm-hmm. I don't trust you. I'm not gonna lie. It's just I don't trust that you're not going to pull something. So yeah, it's me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to Millie then. Hello, friend. How have you been?
Hi, I've been all right. Yeah, my life is work and work is my life. And when my life is not work, it's apparently playing cowboys for stupid amounts of time.
So you've fallen into it too now.
Yeah, that's a hell of a drug, huh? Fuck. So I guess I'm going to have to stream at some point, but I say that every fucking episode, so don't listen to me. I'm a liar.
That's fair.
But yeah, that's life now, I guess.
Did any news come? Can you talk about any of your work? Did any news come out? Any announcements?
No,
Nothing yet?
I'm like ongoing stuff for Baldur's Gate 3, but that's all I can talk about right now. There is a lot of other stuff going on the last couple of weeks, particularly, and I'm very sleep deprived. A little bit jet lagged.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. Haven't been on a jet, just working across multiple time zones.
Oh, okay,
Yay.
right. Not even the fun part. Okay.
No.
Not even the visiting places.
Not that planes are the fun part, really. Are
Oh
they?
no, they're the most fucking awful part. I hate them.
Honest.
But yeah, visiting places at least.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I missed this.
Yeah, and hopefully I can keep your attention and we can all stay awake and stay at it. Awesome. And Tom,
hello.
How you been?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Good.
Been okay. Just plodding along as I do, you know.
Putting along with work.
Yeah, just with work and coming home. Then hanging out with you guys, killing a few zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much currently what I do at the moment. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, I'm always
As
looking
nervous
forward to
as
tonight.
nervous as Susie.
No, not really. Not particularly
Fucking
nervous.
ambling about Westeros without a care.
Yeah, well, that's the way you go, right? I mean, I've done that like once.
You've done that a couple of times, to be fair.
haven't I?
Oh, I will
actually,
never forget. I was jet lagged in fucking Dublin airport, tired, emotional, watching you have a merry fucking jaunt across Westeros. I was furious.
It's jealousy, you see.
It's like Michael Palin's trip across the Reach.
It was great. I loved that episode. That was so much fun. It was just a
probably
nice...
the most wholesome episode we've ever done.
Yeah. It was lovely. More wholesome. For me. Everyone else, you know, whatever. But for me, wholesome.
Can't promise any of that, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so you know, sorry we haven't been gaming very much recently. It's been very busy over here at the Webs. We're buying a house, so there's lots of paperwork and nonsense that goes on with that. So we've had to do a lot of that. And it's been busy at work as well, to be fair. So yeah, we've unfortunately had to take a little bit of a backseat with streaming, but we should be back these next kind of couple of weeks to wrap up the game, and we're still going on with Hexcrawl as well now, which is on the Wednesday. So yesterday we had a spy game, and that will be back each week as per usual. With Noir reforming his explosive ways, apparently, but definitely not.
Lasted all of 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was all conjecture, and you know, oh yeah, you know, I've become more stealthy and stuff. Not gonna happen. We'll see. We'll see what is in store for the disaster spies. But for now, we want to see what is in store for our disaster children in Westeros. And so we're going to start with our this being our 16th episode of season 6, The Dying Embers. Let me get my music on. Start. And we are going to start with Faye.
Oh no.
You and Enzo are thankful for an uneventful journey back towards the Oakenshield coast. Having sailed back up the estuary there of the Manda, and then through some of the Shield Islands, and then landing in that small, like, tucked-in bay just north Oakenshield, you can make your way across the countryside and up to Golden Grove. Golden Grove itself is quiet compared to what you are used to. It seems as if fewer small folk are walking the little roads and dirt tracks and going about their business. The orchards themselves seem to be a little sparser in terms of small folk working them. And you're at a point in the apple growing kind of season where the trees themselves are quite sparse with fruit as well. And you can see, even from the horses that you're atop, striding towards the keep, that there are a little bit of rotted fruit around the base of the trees and the grass, just showing that there hasn't been as much activity here as usual. All of the festival bunting and paraphernalia is away somewhere, nowhere in sight, and even the stuff that seems to be out permanently has been taken down. The walls in front of you, the big white walls, stand bare, and the big doors to the yard have been closed up, and you can see figures traipsing the crenellations atop the walls, back and forth, spears and shields in hand. and your banners flutter down the walls, down either side of the Barbican, the gatehouse. So with you is obviously Enzo. And who else would be in the entourage, Enzo? Seeing as you've just come off your ship, basically,
Yeah,
and spent a few days traveling up here.
It'll probably be Sir Garth, who is the last remaining, who's the knight with me.
Mhm.
I still haven't heard from Ren, but she was ordered to come back here if she couldn't find Faye's knight that she went off to try and find, unless she's dead. And I imagine I wanted to probably keep it quite small to avoid attention. So maybe just a few kind of like sailors with us as well. You know, like trusted sailors that I trust.
Okay.
I'm half tempted to bring Bianca, but she's probably looking after the Sapphire, if I'm honest. I probably wouldn't
That's
trust
up
it
to
in
you.
anyone else's hands.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so with that small entourage, you approach the gates. How would you like to try and enter?
I would just take the entourage straight up to the gate and pull my hood down.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never had to do this before. So I think Faye is as lost in this moment as she could be, because normally there's been this hustle and bustle. There's been people paying attention. And she's never had to gain it before. And you say there are people up on the battlements patrolling.
Yeah. There's a
Oh,
garrison
she'll just like full on country girl whistle then. Like two fingers in the mouth, just people whistle at them to get attention.
You hear a shout from above that says, "Who goes?"
Lady Faye Rowan, Marshal of the North Marches. Can I come in, please?
There is like some kerfuffle up there of maybe 2 or 3 guards that are talking amongst themselves, and then there's quickly a kind of flutter of activity. And after a brief pause, the door crunches at the hinge and begins to open. And then slowly the 2 doors kind of move out into that open position. And then there is all manner of garrison guards here kind of flanking both sides. A few not pouring out, but coming out of either side and standing to attention, but not in an organised line or anything like that, a little bit more haphazardly than that. A couple of them, just at a glance, look a little bit younger than the typical men-at-arms in the garrison, but they stand proud and they stand still and they wait for you to enter.
Thank you ever so much. Where's my magistrate?
You can hear footsteps coming from the courtyard, and you can see through into that courtyard with that beautiful Golden Grove apple tree. And the kind of colonnade behind it. You can hear those footsteps coming from the stone colonnade.
She'll just stand there and fold her hands.
Oh.
And Magistrate Benadar rushes up in his robe and his slippers. Not that he is dressed for bed, but just in his usual garb, and he then rushes, cuts across the grass a little bit nearer the tree, and then straight towards you at the gates. And he is bowing profusely and not quite making eye contact with you immediately, and my lady, welcome back.
Stop bowing and scraping. I'm only teasing. Good to see you.
It is good to see you.
It's good to see you all. This is not quite the homecoming I had in mind.
I have done all I can to keep the holdfast as secure as I can.
Still standing. You've done more than I could possibly have asked for.
Oh, thank you, my lady. Would you like to come inside, perhaps?
Yes.
Rest from
Yes,
the journey.
very much.
And he like nods very quickly, and he kind of been clicking at people and getting servants around and getting you into the courtroom. Where would you like to be directed first? More to your chambers to kind of get settled in? Would you like to try and get to business straight away? You could head to your
Straight
solar.
away. No.
So you could head to your solar, or you could head to the courtroom that you've still got in operation.
I think to the courtroom, but to a side room in that, so make it obvious to everybody who is within this castle that that is where I am going, that there will be a public audience, but we're gonna have a chat first.
Okay. So you enter the court, and in that main hall is it's not a gathering like court is in session yet, but there are a few people in the corners chatting between each other. There is a young lady there, and you recognize the red spider on her black courtly garb as House Weber, and she talks with a couple of other courtiers who are attending here. There's no music, no song here, but you do notice that there is a mummer in the corner. And they are just kind of like eyeing everyone quietly.
I think I'd make eye contact with that mama as I walk past. Oh, I'm feeling bold. Throw him a little wink.
He was doing a very good job of keeping his composure as you were walking past, even with your locked eye contact. But as you wink at him, he clocks a little smile, and then once you pass into the side chamber, drops it again and continues watching the courtiers gossiping. So in the side room, who would you like to attend you?
So that would be my magistrate, Enzo. And is Sir Dennis here? Have I seen him at all?
You haven't seen him, no.
Okay. Just those two then, I think. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody I trust right now.
Sir Benedar attends you and is attentive. And he stands expectantly, waiting.
Forgive me, I've been long away from home. Fill me in on what has befallen here.
Well, I'm afraid, my lady, that the festivals have had to stop, as we have hunkered down and awaited any news from you, from the war host. Unfortunately, I've had to pull in more of the attendants on the tolls, for instance, into the garrison, and so there has not been anyone attending those either.
Understandable.
We have not suffered in any particular way, and I am sorry for the gloom of the place, perhaps, but we did so in order to bolster our defences. I hope that pleases you.
If you call this gloomy, you have not seen the place that I've come from.
As he's been saying that, it does remind you of like the first rebellion, particularly, where the house again slowed things down back home as its lord, its heir, its other heir apparent son went off to war. And so it conjures a little bit of those quiet, more lonely days, as the orchard was kind of left to rot in the later days of that campaign, and most of the small folk were brought into the levy in order to march. And of course, a lot of the Reacher's conflict didn't get to the big battle, Redgrass Field, of that war. But they were dispatched by Leo's forces when he committed his own forces, his own campaign around the Reach to try and dispel any of the rebels that were taking a foothold in the Reach.
And my banner houses, I saw representatives from Weber and...
Yes, my lady. Upon calling them and their banners, House Osprey, Lord Eustace, my lady, of Standfast, he declined. Yeah.
Understandable.
Bitter old Blackfyre supporter.
Frightened old.
With a single tower to his name, yes, most definitely. But Lady Rohan Weber is here. Twice a widow, but a loyalist nonetheless, and has posted guards here too, on rotation.
Good. She'll have to see that she's justly rewarded. Any word from Highgarden?
Yes, my lady. Recently as well. The letter is in your solar.
Right. Yes. Sorry, this is all a little new.
I'm glad to see you are not harmed. When the demands from House Tarly came, we expected perhaps the worst. But
No.
your messages
Longer
got through, and we did not give in to their demands. But we worried that they would then do something to you as a prisoner, as a ward.
You're not the only one, but well, for all his bluster, Samwell Tarly does occasionally keep to his word, so there is that.
And he looks at you with a little bit of ignorance there, a little bit of, not really knowing the ins and outs of what you're talking about, but is still attentive.
I shall go to my solar and to my rooms to change, and then I shall greet my people.
Very well. And he bows deeply, and then he leaves in order to basically arrange for court to be an audience and for you to have that audience.
You like some company, or
I would love some company.
then I
It's
should
been
attend.
too long without company.
Well, lead the way.
I'll slowly make my way towards the solar because I want to see what this letter is.
Your solar looks a little bit more disorganized than you might have left it originally, but not terribly so. And there are a few documents, and there is a letter atop them on the main desk that you and your father and his ancestors would sit. And the documents that are more kind of all over the place are like documents to do with rosters and armies and knightly things, just about the upkeep of the holdfast and making sure that it's safe. But there is a letter atop the desk, and if I can find it, it is a raven's letter by the looks. It's kind of, small parchment that wraps around the leg, but it is sealed with a small gold wax of Lord Leo's signet ring.
I'll instantly recognize it and crack it open.
And it reads, "My lady, it is good to hear you have secured your freedom and are safe once more from captivity. You did not attend us at Highgarden, so can only assume you have returned here to Golden Grove to secure your holdfast. Baelor's victory comes as a huge relief, and from what I hear, most of the rebels' forces here in the Reach have melted away. Only the Tarly forces remaining, but being harassed westward by loyal Highgarden and Targaryen knights. But this is war. This war is not over, and so I ask that you rally what forces you can muster to reinforce Highgarden and the Mander. In this, I speak for my son and for the Reach. I pray that no more fathers or brothers needlessly die over the futility of the Blackfyre claim. Gratefully, Lady Elenya Tyrell."
Ooh.
Your eyes can't help but cast their way over that last line. I pray that no more fathers or brothers needlessly die over the futility of the Blackfyre claim.
I'll hand it to Enzo to read over.
Okay. And as he's reading down and he reaches the bottom, he'll visibly pause, and then you'll see the eyes look over that line once again, and he'll kind of just fold it again, and hand it back to you.
He was alive. When they took the field, he was alive.
I think this is a good time to tell you what I learned from the hunter.
Hunter.
In the dungeon, the night.
With the...
He still remains in the dungeon for your judgment, of course. Or at least he was when I left.
Go on.
I questioned him thoroughly, but the same answer he always gave. Lady Elenya ordered the death of your family.
That makes no sense.
I thought that too. So I questioned him further and further. But again, he said the same thing over. The message that he delivered was from Lady Elenya. Whether she was the one who actually ordered it, I don't know, but that is where he got the message from.
They were fighting on their side. It wasn't over.
I do not know. But it
How
is
sure are
clear.
you? How
Sorry?
sure are you that he's not lying?
As sure as I can be. You may speak to him if you wish, but I doubt you will get anything out of him.
Yes. But if she gave that order, then why? There's a piece missing.
I have been trying to find it. It does not make any sense to me. The only thing that could possibly make sense is that your family knows something that she didn't want anyone else to know. Whatever that would be, I do not know.
Oh, she's not on the side we think she is.
Maybe.
They didn't negotiate for Leo.
This is a bit. I do not know much about the first Blackfyre rebellion. I apologize. It was a bit before my time.
They were loyal. They were a strong fighting force. They wouldn't have eliminated that without a reason. So
The only
either...
The only reason I could think that someone in power to do that is she wanted something hidden. Or it would damage her if your family lived.
Then why
Or
leave me alive? Unless she
maybe
thought I'd
she
use
thought
the...
she could control you a little easier, maybe. How wrong was she?
I don't know. I have been working for her family for quite a while.
It is true. It depends what you want to do next. As you are aware, we still have many questions and not enough answers. There are possibilities to get answers, but it will take time and a great deal of subtlety.
I can do subtlety.
Not really my kind of thing, but I am sure that maybe you know certain people, or I could inquire for certain people.
You just be a wonderful distraction. Let me do what I do. But before I act in this, I have to be absolutely certain that I'm acting in the right. Be good practice. I really would like to meet Costain at some point soon.
Well, let's see if we can arrange that.
But first,
Back to your day job?
then maybe I'll see a little of yours. I'll head to the room to get changed and do the people greeting.
Okay. Is there anything you want to understand or get out from the people greeting? Whether it's just like allegiances or actually getting them to do anything for you, or
nothing at the moment. I want to improve my standing with them for it to be a sort of joyous, this is going to be a positive move forward. The uprising's almost been put down. The people who hurt me are going to be punished, and we will have a festival when this is all over.
Nice. Okay.
Party time.
Party.
Yeah. And there are chants of our own fortunes made that echo from the garrison around the courtroom. Nothing else to mention, really. As I said, Lady Webber is here, and she's got her courtiers with her, but Lord Eustace Osgrey is absent. Otherwise, there are, lower merchants and courtiers from just around the North Marches that you might typically find here, although they're, smaller in number than usual.
Is the knight still alive in the dungeon?
You make inquiries, and
Yeah.
yes, he is still alive.
That's what I
Oh,
was
good.
talking about when I talked about your day job.
Oh, yeah.
Have a little chat with my family and my friends, and then we're just gonna go downstairs and say hi to our new friend.
All right. We'll come back to that.
Oh God.
But first, we will go and see Miria over in Ironwood. And you wake up in bed with that horrible immediate feeling that it is later than you would have liked to stay in bed. The sun seemed a little bit brighter through the window than you would have expected. And so calling on some servants, you realize, yes, that you've slept in a little bit and that the wounds are, taking their toll a little bit, but you're healing, obviously. You didn't imprison the maester or anything like that, did you?
No, he was just, escorted back to his rooms, and a quiet word was given to the guards. Just keep an eye on him.
Yeah. And so he's not really in attendance here with you. You probably have a couple of handmaidens that you've... People, behave! Probably a couple of handmaidens that you have found locally from town that are attending you as well. And then there is another servant, a kind of messenger from outside, a page of the court, that announces to you that Lord Stefan Jourdain has arrived at the keep and is heading to the courtroom, to the hall.
Okay, so I imagine this is one of those things where Miri is like half dressed and she's like, fuck, she's got to get dressed quick. But it's a slow and laborious process working around her injuries. And she gives off the orders to get the bread and salt ready for him so that he can be welcomed properly with like real hospitality that's not going to get broken. Not a subtweet. And then she's just gonna, make a beeline for that courtroom because he's an anticipated guest, and we're not rude here at Castle Ironwood.
Okay. You enter the courtroom just as he is partaking in the bread and the salt. And he has a small entourage of Dornish guards and courtiers with him, but not many. And so the small hall that you're accustomed to on one of the top floors of the castle, with that kind of circular room with that expansive balcony out that looks out into the yard. He sees you after eating a bit of bread and then finishing it off with a bit of water just because of the saltiness, and then he and his kind of floppy golden locks turns towards you and bows kind of shallowly, and then says, "My lady."
And Mira sort of like gives him a respectful bow back, and she's still using that walking stick, which Mama Ironwood's. But she welcome to Castle Ironwood, Lord Jourdain. I trust your journey was a swift one.
It was, thank you. And he he turns as if to indicate somebody, and you can see from kind of the rear of the entourage, the female Enzo lookalike is with him towards the rear of that group, and she is just kind of watching him and watching you as you speak. He says, "You are looking much better and all again worse than what I expected. How are you feeling?"
Well, when one goes toe-to-toe with the hammer of Maekar Targaryen, one's lucky to make it out alive.
Very much so. But I understand that you were the victor and we are one more dragon down.
I think because Maria is that bitch, she, like in Crusader Kings where you have artifacts, she's got Maekar's helmet in her courtroom.
Okay, yeah.
And she sort of gestures to it and says, I fared much better than he did. Yes. Unfortunately,
He strides over to it, and he looks at it for a second, and then you can see the kind of gears whirring in his head for just a second, and then he it kind of like bends over and like droops and looks and like tries to look inside through the visor and kind of is inspecting to see whether there might be a head in there or not.
I fear Lord Jordana didn't quite have time to collect a real trophy. The Blood Braven saw to that.
Yes. And where is he now?
Last I heard from my scouts, he's menacing the Boneway. But he doesn't really have anywhere to go. He's between House Ironwood and House Will. As the days go on, his forces will dwindle. The Boneway is not known as being a hospitable piece of land.
Perhaps old Thousand Eyes will travel west through the Red Mountains and up towards his nephew's host.
I imagine so. It would be folly to try and siege either one of us without some sort of significant reinforcements.
Blood Raven is not a logical man, strategic man, though. He may still be out for some blood, some vengeance.
And Miria's like, she just has like a flashback to the maester coming at her. Well, I imagine he's not quite done with us yet.
And his grace is not quite done with you yet, I am afraid.
Oh?
Would you like to do this now, or would you like to sit down? Perhaps we should eat.
Yeah, she's like, let's sit. And then she gets some chairs like put down for the both of them.
Yeah, and so you would sit in like the ironwood chair, and then like he would sit like on a side chair, as if taking court. But then the two of you are just discussing side by side what's going on. We are thankful for the reports that you sent whilst we were besieging Sunspear of your fight with the Targaryen host in the Boneway, and His Grace congratulates you wholeheartedly on your success. We received a report from Lord Caswell, who survived the Battle of the Reach, but unfortunately they did not fare so well.
And Maria's jaw like clenches and she clutches the armrest. How badly?
They were defeated by all reports, but we have not heard word from Lord Ball. And this is why His Grace would like you with a contingent of knights or men at arms, however you wish to do it, to head northwest in order to assist the Reacher houses, or at the very least get a good report of what is happening.
Forgive me if I'm wrong here, and I do not wish to question His Grace's wisdom. If we have been defeated in the Reach, is that not sending our forces to further defeat?
Perhaps, but as you say, we are not one to question such things. And this is from Bittersteel himself.
I see.
The Reacher Lords have not done as well as we would have hoped. But we were to know that, of course, weren't we? And so, for the first time in history, it is up to the Dornish to help our Reacher allies. Bloodraven's forces, the late Prince Maekar's forces, of course, have melted away in the Boneway. His Grace does not have no fear about another invasion coming through the Boneway. And with House Will on side now, we have another ally at the other end. And this frees House Ironwood and its allies up to head north.
All right. And Miriel's like she's chewing something over in her mind. Regretfully, though, my lord Jordan, I will not be able to personally undertake this endeavor.
And why is that?
I am with child.
And he kind of glares at you, bringing his head down, and kind of stares through unkept blonde eyebrows. And he looks around the room and he quietly says, "Whose child, if I might ask?"
And she looks down and away for a moment before she meets his eyes. Lord Bull.
And he tries to hide his surprise, but you can tell he is taken aback by that. He's no longer staring at you down over some imaginary spectacles or anything. And he pulls back and he calls for some wine. And he takes a drink and he considers that for more than a few minutes. If I were you, that would give me all the more reason to go.
I would be lying if I said that hadn't crossed my mind.
Lady Miria, there is no one else to command this force. I have been doing my best to rally the other houses west of the wells, but the houses you took up the Bone Way did not fare as well as your own. You have proven yourself, and His Grace recognizes that. And he called for you personally. And that was what he gave me as his expectation. If you were to refuse him, I could perhaps say something in your favor. But it is not His Grace I would be worried about.
No. And she takes like a big breath and she's really struggling here with like, do I fucking drag my ass across the fucking reach? Maybe give birth in a tent in a fucking field? Or do I say no to bitter steel and end up with my head on a fucking spear?
It's not been 9 months. You're like a couple months pregnant or something.
Yeah, but
yeah, like eventually.
You know how stressy people get. And she takes the cup of wine because they don't know in Westeros that drinking alcohol is bad when you're at the duff. And she takes a big drink. Very well. Tell His Grace that it will be done.
Good. Good. Now, is there any joy left in this place?
We should call for Lord Karen. he'll be more than happy to entertain us with a song.
Ah.
Perhaps he could tell you the one he's been writing about me whilst I die of embarrassment in the corner.
Oh, of course. That they have to see. And so you call for some festivities.
Yeah,
So that-
and some like a little fucking, canapes or whatever. Just
yeah,
rich
a bit of
people
finger
stuff.
food, rich people stuff. Okay. Yeah, and so that afternoon is more about entertainment then, and kind of entertaining your guest. And so Lord Karen gives you another iteration of the song that he is writing about the battle. It's a little bit more about him than you remember.
What a wanker! I hate him.
But after that, he goes into a few Dornish songs that he's either like kind of learnt quickly, or he's maybe had kind of in his back pocket over the course of his performances over his life. And so there's a couple of crowd pleasers in there and stuff like that. And then there's a couple of good kind of Blackfyre tunes that were making the campfire rounds back in the day, that kind of thing. You get the sense that kind of as the kind of court gossip goes around about what Bittersteel is asking of you, that Lord Karen might be willing to go along as well, even though he's really been a guest here and his forces have been pretty much destroyed. But he obviously has an interest in going back northwest, being a Reacher Lord himself, and his house actually being like just north of the Prince's Pass as well. So he wants to kind of find out what's going on at home. But the Ironwood Knights, who's your main knight guy again?
Lysander.
Yeah. So Lysander is looking pretty moody in the corner, and is kind of speaking occasionally to a couple of the other knights who approach him.
Okay. I'll find a quiet moment in the jolly times to sort of like slip away from being present and clapping at the right moment to go and chat with Lysander. Like, I think Maria clocks that general sort of mood from him, and she's like, okay, gotta sort this fucking bum out. Never ends. Don't take a castle, friends. It's a lot of stress. It's not worth it. But she'll sort of sidle up to him. You seem dour.
Sorry, say that again. I've no problem with my
You seem
little
dour.
headphones. It's not necessarily a problem I have with you, my lady, but a lot of the knights feel if we are commanded to leave our post, not guard the way, we'll be doing a dishonor to what you did in the Bone Way, and to our ancestors and your house name.
I understand that. And
They don't want to go.
What? Truth be told, I don't really want to either. Well, I do, but that's for entirely selfish reasons. In my heart, if I were to be true to my father, to this house, to everything it stands for, then we would close our gates, guard the way, and be the impenetrable portcullis that House Ironwood has been. But we are in difficult times, and we have to think about this a different way. By undertaking this mission, we guard not only the way into Ironwood, into the Bone Way, but we guard the way into Dawn. We guard the way for the realm.
Do they really think that one flank of knights, as strong, courageous as we are, is going to turn the tide of a whole realm?
I have no idea. And I know that we are the strongest knights of Dawn. There is no one that meets our equal. But even we have limits. But we should be cognizant of that. And be smarter, move swifter, not take any risks.
I'd like you to roll persuasion, definitely, and most likely convince.
Okay.
You have 3 bonus die and a test die in your little frame.
Let's use a bonus, friend.
Okay.
Because I do still have a wound. Oh, 20. So charming, so convincing.
And so Lysander says, I will speak to them. I will get them to go. Perhaps use some of the words you have just said to me. I will get them moving somehow. And there's kind of a half smile he has as he says that.
And Miria puts a hand on his arm and she gives him a really warm, genuine smile. Thank you, Lysander.
But like I said, it cannot just be us.
I know.
Who else can we rally?
Lord Karen has shown some interest, but he barely has any forces. We need the wills to protect the Boneway. There's not much left to speak of the Manwoodies or the Fowlers.
The Fowlers might. I don't think they were all destroyed in the battle. We have peaks, Peak's old forces still. Some making a nuisance in town. So perhaps we can direct their energy elsewhere.
All right. There's no one really, is there, in the Reach around us that we could convince? No one that's already pledged their forces elsewhere. There's the Dondarrions, but they fought for the Targaryens.
Who are loyal.
Mm-hmm. Don't mind me just consulting the map and Miria's knowledge.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is here? God, there is no one really around us. Fuck. We could attempt to recruit as we ride through villages and towns. I'm sure there are some young men that need purpose.
We'll have to find them on their way.
But I swear to you that if things take a turn, if we look to be outnumbered and outmatched, then we will turn and we will return here. And we will bar our gates. And damn whatever consequences come.
That I can perhaps use to convince the most stubborn of the Order. And he slinks off, presumably to go and speak to people.
Mm-hmm.
speak to key knights or key sergeants and get the order on board. Is there anything else you wanted to do?
What is the sort of time period between like healing wounds? Because I still have a wound to get rid of.
A whole week.
A whole week. Okay. Fuck. All right. So yeah, I think the thing she's gonna do is get a message sent to the Fowlers to be like, "Hi, it's me again. You want to go do more war?"
Yeah. Okay.
So she'll be, I think, after that conversation with Lysander, she sort of just like slinks out of the festivities and just heads off to her solar to write these letters. And she's gonna send to the Fowlers and like notices to go up in like Ironwood Village as a little recruitment drive to see if we can get more boys. You know, she's really trying to bolster any forces that she can get.
Okay. Roll me then. Language with convince specialty.
Okay. Jesus. All right. I'm going to use another bonus die. Okay. It's going to come up as Valyrian, but that's because I've got a die in Valyrian. So that would be the same as convince.
Okay.
That's a 10.
A 10? Okay. Let's check my passive here. Reload. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
And then she's going to try and not stress about the uncertain fate of what the fuck is happening in the Reach. She's going to not stress about it.
All right. Samuel. Every trot, every step, every little movement on the back of this horse shoots pain through your body, up through your spine and over your shoulders. Your thighs in particular have the worst saddle sores that you seem to have ever had. There's like not much soreness there, but it's just aggravated even more so by the injuries that you've sustained. And come the morning of you with Alistair trying to track the Tarly forces that seem by their tracks to be heading westward, Alistair stops the horse by a little stream and looks to get out some food, provisions. You can see just to your left, as you're on the kind of further back on that horse, the glint of Valyrian steel under those saddlebags again. The two swords that he seems to have claimed from the battlefield. And he gets out some dried fruits and a little bit of salt beef as well. Just scraps, really, not even full rations.
Samuel looks down to the saddlebag for a moment and then very gingerly slips off the saddle and down to the ground. He ties up the horse and goes about helping that way slowly, trying not to hiss through his teeth from the pain of moving around.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's done, he takes off his helmet and fastens it, unfastens his gauntlets again, and sets them down there by the stream. And he finds himself a dirty little patch of mud to sit down on, He loosens the straps on his breastplate and just sort of through bleary eyes looks up to Alistair as he's gathering food and across down to the river. Does it seem like these tracks we've been following, does it seem like we're making progress, that we're catching up, just the two of us on horse versus this army?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the tracks definitely seem a little fresher.
And Samuel scoops a handful of water, cleans his hands a little bit, which I think probably still have some old dried blood from the battle on them that he hasn't cleaned off yet. And he scoops a second time and washes his face and wets his hair and pulls it down to the side of his face so that his burns on the right side of his forehead are visible. And he looks back to Alistair and he says, "Do you remember, Alistair, when we were young and we would go to the tournaments and watch all of the knights in their gleaming armor lining up, the lances, the cries from the crowd? Do you remember how exciting that was?"
And he seems to lose himself in a daydream as you describe that scene. And he doesn't reply, but he smiles a little to himself. And then he offers you a little bit of like jerky.
He takes the jerky and he takes a bite. He looks back to the water and he says, "The first time you and I rode together, we followed my father to Vulture's Roost, and I thought, oh, this is a proper battle. This is what knights do. They protect the innocent. They make sure that bandits and raiders, criminals and cutthroats don't rule the Reach." I remember looking at you in your armor and thinking, when did Alistair Oakhart become a knight? Just like all those knights we watched when we were growing up. We did something good that day, didn't we?
He seems to struggle with that, and he pauses before saying very quietly under his breath, I don't remember. And then he finishes the mouthful of food that he has, and he says, "Come on, I don't want to. I don't want to lose them. Let's go. Let's hurry up."
Yes, of course. Just give me a moment, please. Then we'll go.
And so he heads towards the horses, and he stays by it, and kind of pats it and looks after it. It's a little brush.
Samuel tries to catch his breath. He finishes this little bit of jerky as he's staring down at the water. He hurts. No part of him wants to get back up onto that horse, but he's sort of steeling himself too, and just very quietly, under the sort of whistling of the wind across the grass, he just mumbles to himself, "Little Tarly Butcher." He grabs his helm, stands up slowly, fastens it slowly, tightens his breastplate, one gauntlet at a time. He redons his armor and staggers back to the horse and kind of grabs the saddle and says, "Can you help me up, please?"
And so he, whilst on the ground, helps you up onto the horse and kind of pushes and digs a couple of fingers into your waist that send a nerve twitching again up your spine, but he manages to get you onto that horse. And then he has to kind of awkwardly maneuver up himself to try and squeeze in front of you onto the horse, onto the saddle itself. But once he's finally made his way up the horse, he kicks it into a light trot, and again those bumps and every single little trot and every single little step rattle their way up your back.
Samuel previously was in the front of the horse, this time in the back of the horse. He just kind of slumps forward, and not like super tight, but he does sort of wrap his arms a little around Alistair, who's on the front of the horse, and he just sort of mumbles, echoing through his helm, "We're close. We're almost there. We're almost home."
Mara, having stopped along a stream, Hunter, who I think is still with you, one of the last remaining guards, splashes his face with water and washes his hands a little in the stream, and then says to you, "We are gaining on them, my lady, but this doesn't bode well." And he indicates over to three Tarly corpses that have been found face down in the dirt, not far from you, but the other guards are currently kind of at least trying to kind of see if they've got anything on them before just kind of laying them by the stream, kind of at rest, but not properly buried.
Do we know what killed them? Injuries? Were they chased?
It doesn't seem they died of any consumption or any infection. They seem to have died from fresh wounds, and so I should suspect that they're still being harassed by High Garden forces.
We're going to end up between our army and whoever's following them.
If we can move quickly, if we can move quicker today, then perhaps we can reach our forces, find them quicker.
I think Mara's probably sitting down by this stream in the dirt, in the mud, doesn't really care, and kind of looks around for a moment. And if it's just the two of them, if her other guard is off doing something somewhere, she just takes that moment hearing this and visualizing this picture in her head that even if they find this army, there's no guarantee they can even get to them to do anything with them. And just kind of, just for a brief moment, breaks the kind of courtly lady, woman of the house in charge, and just sinks her face into her hands and does everything she can not to kind of half scream, half cry in frustration. And does the thing where you like press into your eyes before you've even started crying to try and stop yourself, and then tries to steady herself back and looks back up at him. I don't know what we're going to do when we get there. If they're still being harassed and they're still moving, whatever force is harassing them is big enough that they're not stopping to fight. At least not for long. Where would they be pushing from here?
It's likely that they're just on the retreat, unfortunately. Just moving as far away as they can. But that does mean that the High Garden and Targaryen forces are on a forced march as well. It's just a matter of who endures the longest.
My pride wants to tell me that it's us, but I don't have much of that left.
Let us ride doubly hard. and see if we can catch up with them.
We have
But-
to be careful.
Before he
I'm all
goes
for-
to... Oh, sorry, go on.
I'm all for riding hard, but not too hard. We don't want to end up there before we can even figure out what's going on.
Before he can even go to prep the couple of horses that you have, you hear an unsheathing of weapons at where the guards were taking care of the dead target Atali soldiers. And it's your guards who have drawn weapons, and they're looking past you, kind of behind you.
I think Mara kind of picks herself up from the dirt, probably like quicker than she should stand up, and there's a minute of like head rush as she does, and she turns, kind of takes a couple of steps forward to try and see what they're seeing.
And you can see a lone horse, and atop that horse a male rider and another body, another person slumped behind them on the back of the horse.
Can she make out if they've got colors, banners, anything identifiable about?
There are no colours on the front rider. And Don, what's Samuel wearing at this point?
Samwell is wearing beaten, muddy, dented green plate mail armor. He's got a tattered red cape, the cape of the hunter, fluttering from over his shoulder. He's got his helm, which was previously melted partially in Summerhall. It was shaped like a golden bear, but the gold is tarnished now. It looks more muddy. One of the bear's ears is melted down, and a crack on the skull from the Kingsguard's blade, which caused one of his injuries, has sort of close enough to be visible. I think his armor and his helm, that cape, are a dead giveaway.
Mara's wearing armor that is similar and matching to Samwell's as well, so she'd recognize it as soon as it's close enough for her to see. And I think she doesn't even talk for a second. She just watches this horse move towards her, and she has to blink to make sure she's not seeing something. She turns to Hunter. Put your swords away. Put your swords away. Don't you know who that is?
And they hesitantly kind of lower their swords, and then coming into view now, more like at a walk, is the unfortunately familiar face of Alistair riding at the front of that horse. And he walks the horse up, but staying a good kind of 10-15 feet back from the guards. And at his hip, not in a scabbard, but carefully positioned in a belt, you again get that kind of glint of like Valyrian steel.
Is this Heartsbane?
It's
He's wearing?
not, it's a longsword.
Does he have both swords?
So the Heartsbane is still strapped to the horse, just to the side.
I don't think Mara even sees Alistair at first, because her eyes are fixed on that green armor and that cloak that's moving in the wind. That's the only thing. Like, the horse disappears, the guards disappear, everything else disappears for a second until that horse has stopped. And she's already started walking and moving towards it. As the horse is coming towards her, she's already started that automatic walk. You know, when you see someone you care about or you haven't seen in a long time, that just kind of momentum that drives you without any thought behind it. And then I think she probably gets close enough to the horse that she could reach out and touch the front of its face before she realizes, and then freezes on the spot and just looks up at him.
Alistair's face is a confusing smile down at you. But he manages to mumble, "Hello, Mara."
She kind of chews on the inside of her cheek, and her tongue plays behind her teeth as she's somewhere between grateful and angry and doesn't really understand what's happening. And she looks at Samwell, and she's looking to see what his face says, if he's looking at her at all.
I think riding a little away from the sun, the part of the helm that's open is cast into shadow, and so Samwell's eyes are not really visible behind the helm, but his voice echoes out very quietly, and he says from over Alistair's shoulder, "He's come back to us, Mara. Alistair's come back. He saved me."
And like, there's everything in her body is rage. She's stiff. Her fists are clenched so hard her knuckles are going white. And she just desperately tries to keep her calm, and just probably a little bit too harshly, but it's the most polite she can manage. Her eyes snap back to Alistair. Is that true? Did you?
I come back for you. Samuel says there's hope for us. And when he says us, he even looks back towards Samuel. But he looks mainly at you.
I don't understand. And like midway through that sentence, she's looking over at Samuel and she still can't see his face. And she takes a very cautious kind of step back from this horse. Not even consciously, just...
I think subconsciously, Alistair kind of moves the horse like one step forward as you step back. And there's that kind of like mirroring sometimes that animals do. And the horse kind of moves forward a little bit with you. And that just presses upon you a little bit more oppression as moving forward. Alistair says, we can go home, Mara. We can go home to Old Oak. We don't have to do this anymore. We don't have to get wrapped up in all this silliness, in all this stupidity. We can just forget about the world and go home.
Men have died. And
Mara.
if Samuel's watching Mara, she looks afraid. Like it's that same ghostly white, pale, like sickly looking fear that she had before.
Samwell echoes from behind the helm again. Mara, he's right. The battle's over. It's time for us to go home.
I thought you were dead.
I thought I was too.
She doesn't even know what to say. She's just stood there, just like mouthing words that don't come out, that she's rooted to that spot. And she kind of, there's a bit of her that tries, like almost like it wants to reach past Alistair for Samwell, but she's too far away and her hands just end up awkwardly floating in front of her. I don't understand.
And like with your hands kind of floating in front of you a little bit, and as you mutter, "I don't understand," that's when Alistair finally makes a move to try and like get off the horse. He, steadies Samwell, but then he actually drops down, and now he's
Sam will
staying
help
just in
him
front
down
of
a little
you.
bit.
Huh?
Sam will help him down a little bit too.
Mara's immediate, like completely unconscious reaction is to flinch backwards. And it's almost like she's reaching for one of her guards, just unconsciously takes several steps back. Like she's backing away from, you know, that wild dog that nearly killed her once in the woods.
The guards have their hands on their hilts. And Hunter, actually just behind you, actually draws part of his sword in a kind of defensive, or like, you know, a kind of almost bouncery kind of motion to like stop Alistair. And Alistair looks back to him and then to you, and then just looks utterly kind of bewildered and says, "Well, what do you mean? No, we're going home. I don't understand." And but you can see his tears begin to well up in his eyes.
And she's looking at him, but she's calling to Samuel over his shoulder. Sam, I don't understand what's happening.
Samuel unfastens his great helm. He slides it with effort over his head and hooks it to the saddlebag on the side of the horse. So that you can see his eyes, and he looks tired. He's washed his face, but like he probably looks paler than you've ever seen him. There's dark circles under his eyes, and he pulls his hair back from his face, and he looks down at you. Mara, we're going home, all of us.
All of us.
All of us.
You need to get off that horse and you need to come here and speak to me before I go anywhere with anyone.
Give me just a minute. He kind of takes in a sharp breath. And on the opposite side of the horse, from where Alistair hopped off, he slides down and drops down with thunk into the grass, into the mud. He holds on to the reins loosely. And he looks to Alistair and looks to the guards, tries to make eye contact with these two guards, and he holds up a hand and nods his head as if to say, sheathe your swords.
And they calm a little, and they're ready. They've no longer got their hands on the hilts, but they've at least got one on the scabbard.
He holds out a hand for Mara.
She will immediately like reach for it before she's even started moving and walk right past Alistair. Like she's walking, you're a kid and you're walking at night and you think if you walk really quickly past that really dark open door to a room that the thing can't get you that's in there. It's like that. Like she speeds up the second she's in his vicinity, and very probably still a bit too forceful for Samuel's condition. But as gently as she can manage in this momentum that she's built, just wraps herself into him. And she is shaking.
He's probably rattling a little bit too in pain inside his armor. He doesn't shrink away. You just kind of puts a gauntlet on your shoulder lightly. And he says very quietly into the side of your face, our army, where is it? What happened?
I don't know. The camp got attacked. It took Leo. Enzo came for Faye. I sent the both of them off. I think she's gone back to Golden Grove. And then I was going to head one of the keeps of the houses that were loyal to us, but I couldn't not check the battlefield. Our army moved west. We think we're not far behind, but they're being harried probably by Highgarden's forces and Targaryen forces. We've already found dead men on the way, and they didn't die from blood loss or infection. Our army still exists. I don't know about anybody else. I don't know about Harris, any of the other forces that we had, but they're moving westward. I know you told me to run, but a pregnancy is less of a bargaining chip than an army, and far less certain. And there's a little bit of her that pulls back and looks into his eyes. I did what you asked me to do because I thought you were dead. And then there's a whole new fear on her face.
You did right.
What I don't understand is why you have brought him here.
He looks to Alistair, who I imagine is watching us right now. He says, we've all suffered these past years.
I
Alistair,
suffered because of him.
we've all suffered, and it's time for that suffering to end. Alistair, after everything they did to him, after his condition, he's chosen to stand by us. He's chosen to return to us.
Until the Targaryens click their fingers and bring their dog to heel, you mean? Have you forgotten what he did? He murdered a man in my father's halls. My sister's father, as it turns out. My entire family walked away from me because I tried to protect him. Marcia tried to murder me. I lost my child
every bit
because
as
of
guilty
him.
as Alistair for that. Every bit, Mara.
You weren't the one that didn't tell me. You weren't the one that should have told me. You weren't the one that took 3 days to tell me what happened. So I didn't even have a choice about which side I stood on.
He looks over to Alistair. She is right, you know. Why didn't you tell her?
I'm sorry, Mara. I was scared.
You were scared.
And, like, you can see he's like visibly shaking at that point. Like
A few moments of fear about telling me what you wanted to do, telling me what you had done. That's not scared. That's cowardice. Scared is lying face down in a pool of your own blood in a godswood when your stepmother tries to murder you with a shadow cat. Scared is wandering through woods by yourself when you can't see from the blood running down your face, wondering if you're going to make it anywhere before somebody finds you. Scared is locking yourself away in a room for a year because everybody around you whispers and stares and hates you, and your family won't speak to you. That's what scared is.
He's crying by this point. He's holding out a hand and he's just saying very quietly, just barely audible on his lips, I can make it up to you.
How in the seven hells did you plan to do that?
Come home. Come home with me. I can take care of you. And he glances at Samuel briefly when he says that as well. Come home.
she looks at Samuel with this look of, it's almost horror. I'm not going back there. My home is Horn Hill.
He looks to Alistair and he says, our home is Horn Hill.
Alistair's expression slowly forms from upset to angry. And Mara, you feel the bright white piercing pain of a sword. As I just need to find him, and I need to roll. An 18.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Oh, with an unaware attack, a 22.
Yeah.
2. No, that's not what I was after. On my kingdom for a cheat sheet. There we go. We reduce your AR by 1 until repaired. Oh man, Valerian Steel Longsword. Because of course I haven't actually figured this out, started this out yet. It's not going to do anything, is it?
Should be +1 damage to that.
Yeah. It's going to be... is 22, I guess, is like 4 degrees? No, maybe not. Combat
my
defense.
armor rate, combat defense. My
Yeah.
combat defense is 5.
Okay. So yeah, 4 degrees of success. So it's going to be 20 points of damage.
My
Minus
armor
your
6, so that will be, it goes down to 15. How
Mhm.
do wounds and injuries work?
So you can take
I
a
never
wound.
do combat in this game.
So you can take a wound and you'll ignore all of the incoming damage, or you can take an injury and you'll ignore your endurance rank of damage.
Oh, we're going to take a wound because I don't have a thing called endurance. It doesn't exist.
Okay. And so I think what's happened is that he has gone to stab you, and just as you've turned, maybe to look back at him or to shift your weight whilst you're listening to Samuel, he's misjudged, and it goes like almost like through your kidney and out the other side of your side. And this Valyrian steel has just sliced straight through the breastplate, and now Samuel, on the other side, you can see the point of the sword that the Kingsguard knight that you fought was holding. It's not Dark Sister, it's something else. I can't remember what it's called now. Susie is about to buzz in.
Lady Forlorn.
Okay,
Lady
so
Forlorn.
and you can
That's a good name.
you can see the tip of Lady Forlorn sticking out of Mara's side.
I like to think that maybe Alistair hasn't even registered that Mara's wearing armor, because she does have a cloak on over the top of this. So he probably hasn't even, because she's like kept it about herself, probably hasn't even seen what she's wearing underneath. And I think there's a minute where that comes through where Mara she doesn't know if she's been stabbed or not. It's like that moment when you hear gunshots and for a moment that you just don't feel anything and you have no idea. And then she looks down, and as she tries to move, she then realizes, I'm not bleeding. This has gone through my armor. And just looks at Samuel, like even paler than she was before, and just doesn't move.
And he pulls the sword out at that point, and it expects you to fall, but Samuel.
There's an audible immediate, because he can hear the sound. It's a sound he knows well. That sword goes through audible and immediate, a ragged inhalation, his eyes wide, and his hands are moving before his mind is even moving. He's positioned himself on the opposite side of that horse where Heartsbane lies in the saddlebag, and he's going to draw Heartsbane and attempt to, while Alistair's pulling back, bring it down around his head and back.
Okay.
He's holding it in his gauntlet. It's probably cutting through some of the metal and the greaves in his gauntlet, maybe into his hand a little bit.
All right, make that attack.
Do I get my marriage bonus on this?
Yeah, you do.
haven't used that in a while.
Yeah.
I haven't used that ever in this game. I haven't used it ever.
That's perfect.
I've used it
And you
once.
have a bonus die in chat.
I'm brutal attacking, so I don't get any bonus die.
Okay.
But I do get no bonus die. That's not correct. Hold on. That didn't roll all my dice. I get 1, 2, 3 more.
It's 3 wounds you've got, so we're dropping 3 die.
Yeah. And I already did the wounds and the injuries too.
Perfect.
So I got a 6, 4, 4. I get a total of 5 die here. 6, 4, 4, and a 2. So that's 12, 18, 20, plus 1, 21.
With those 3 wounds?
Jesus.
I have an
Wow.
extra die. Yeah, that's with my sword. It's like the only thing I can still do.
Holy shit.
A 20 is going to be 3 degrees of success.
Okay. That's an automatic wound plus 30 damage.
Oof. Let's have a look then. 30 damage. Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna. This half plate's not gonna soak all of that, is it? It's gonna have to be another wound. All right. And
I'm sorry, that should have been 17 total. I forgot. I get -4 for my injuries. If that makes it 2 degrees, I don't know.
it makes it 2 degrees.
So that'll be 20 damage plus an extra wound.
Yeah, still basically the same thing I'm going to do then. The same kind of result. Okay. And so, how does this wound him?
So I like what Samuel's doing. His brain kicks in after his body reacts. This is what he was trying to avoid at all costs. And it happened so fast. Like he thought he was ready, and it happened so fast. And so his plan, he immediately reaches for the great sword. He brings it down over Alistair's head, and then through the pain, gripping one blade with his left hand, the hilt with his right hand, he pulls it back towards his head. And Samuel, just because he's so big and he's so tall, he's larger than Alistair, he cracks. He can hear his spine cracking up to the top of his neck as he bends back as much as he can, howling in pain, trying to lift Alistair up by the neck with the blade and just pull as hard as he can.
So whilst he's kind of dangling up there for just a second, and you're 2 tall people, you're craning back, and that neck guard that he's got is just still holding on, and he's kind of like tried to wrap one arm around yours to try and stop the force of that, and then eventually he kind of like he hits you a couple of times, once in the plate, and then he kind of gets a joint just to actually get into like a kind of nervy spot, and that means you just both crumple to the ground, kind of both in a rough like kneeling or squatting position. Mara, you got a turn.
I feel like Mara watches this all happen, and it's one of those things. She's seen Samuel train. She's probably seen Alistair train. She knows how quick both of these men can be and how quick knights can be in their armor. But in this moment, it's it's like it's hyper real to her as she watches this. And there's a bit of her that just for that brief second, as Samuel's pulling up, is expecting this sword to just melt through this armor like butter. But as soon as they're both crumpled on the floor, and I imagine they're both in a bit of pain, I assume Alistair's a little bit busted up too.
You can hear me. It's just taken 2 wounds, so like he's bleeding from the neck now.
She's screaming at her guards, like, stop this, break this up. Because she knows she can't do it. She can't do anything here. She's wearing armor, but it's not the same armor that they're wearing. It's not going to protect her all that much. But she's looking at these guards who are still wearing their armor as if to be like, break up the school ground fight. She doesn't even necessarily, like, even in the moment, she doesn't even think to have them, she's not ordering them to kill Alistair. She just wants them to stop whatever this is. Because this is already too much. It was too much before the fighting, and this is definitely too much.
They rush forward, but not with enough time to stop Alistair from swinging around and just trying to slash at Samuel. And so I'm going to spend a bonus die, because for the juice, see if I can get one last. He's taken a couple of wounds. So I'm going to see one last hit. Let's see if I can do it. The bonus die. A 9 against your combat defense.
Which is -5.
Oh yeah, actually, what I'll do, let's think.
I reckless attacked last turn.
I'll reckless attack too. Let me add a die as well. So
he
14.
will get -1. Oh no, it's not the first round of combat. 14. My combat defense is going to be a 1. Is that right? Yeah, 1. So that's going to be 2 degrees of success.
Your combat defense is a 1?
I get -5 because I reckless attacked.
Okay, so that
and I'm all messed up right now.
Yeah. So that extra, so that is a crit. So ignore 2 of your opponent's AR. It's going to be 10 damage.
Okay. So it gets through his armor, but it doesn't deal very much damage.
Okay.
Not that it needs to deal a ton, but it doesn't deal enough.
Yeah. And it's your turn.
Where's he stabbed me?
He's just tried to slash a couple of times just across your front. These are not well-placed attacks. He is more infuriated than anything else.
Samwell tries to bring up the hilt of, like, as he's got this around his neck, he tries to bring up the long hilt of Heartsbane to try to give some protection to his face, and he takes a cut across his cheek despite that. And he's still surprised, but now tears are streaming down his face, and he's looking right back into Alistair's eyes, and he can hear the ripping of skin as he just mumbles, "I'm so sorry." And he pulls one more time, turning around, rolling so that he can try to push up to his feet and pull up this time. And this will be -3. An 18 with 2 6s.
Yeah, so that will be 2 degrees of success and double his combat defense.
Okay, so that's another wound and then 20 damage.
And so finally, Alistair's neck crunches and then cleanly slices off as you pull back. The two of you hit the ground, his head rolling away to the side, and blood just absolutely caking you and the ground around you. The guards rush up just in time to actually see this happen close at hand, and they gather round, swords in hand, and just look at you.
He's just lying there. I'm not sure he can really move at the moment. Kind of head turned to the side, just staring into those open eyes, Alistair's open eyes, and then he closes his, and he weakly raises a gauntlet and says, "Mara, my child, see to her now."
Mara just walks towards Samuel. I don't even know if she hears her name, and that's about it. And she's horrified. And there's a bit of her that in the back of her mind wonders if she pushed Alistair to go off on purpose, but she's not sure that she did. And she starts to think about when she threatened him the last time she saw him and whether or not she really meant it. And she doesn't know. But she's just walking to Samuel because she doesn't know what else to do. And just tries to reach out for him.
Don, from all the stress that this sudden fight has caused on your body, and for all of those little injuries and wounds that can pop back open, you can feel a little bit that you're bleeding again from a couple of places. It's at this point that I want you to roll your endurance test for your injuries, because that happens once per day. This is going to be a challenging 9 difficulty.
Oh boy. Okay. How many bonus die do I have?
In frame, 1.
1. Okay.
If this result is a 4 or less, that's like disaster time.
Disaster time.
You spent that bonus die?
Oh, I'm definitely spending the
From
bonus
chat?
time. Just making sure I don't have anything else to spend first.
Because I think you're maxed up on injuries, right?
Yeah, I max up on wounds and injuries.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I can survive this test. One bonus die. I didn't gain any glory from the battle, did I?
Technically, yes, because you participated. Let's have a look. Each commander gains 1 glory for participating.
I'll spend that glory for an extra die as well.
A test
for
die.
sure.
Yeah.
66. Keep 4. No, wait. 66. Keep 3 minus 4. That's what I'm rolling. 10.
And so 1 of your injuries is healed.
That's not right. A 9. A 5. A 5. I did that wrong.
Yeah?
Yep, I sure did. It's a 5.
That is a failure, but it is just enough for you to stay breathing. Literally by the number, just enough for you to stay breathing. So you still have the same amount of injuries and wounds, but you are alive. But
yeah,
you can feel yourself bleeding, and Mara, you can see just a little stream of blood, probably pouring just down the side of the kind of like an outer thigh or the hip.
She's like, she will, as soon as she sees him bleeding, as she's reaching for him, she's on her knees in this mud, and the blood here that's coming from both of the other bodies in this space and is immediately like pulling at the side of her cloak and just pressing her hands onto that wound and just holding it as it soaks. She can feel it soaking through, and like takes one hand off once she can steady herself with the pressure and just uses it to pull Samwell into her. And she's just whispering over and over again, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Doesn't really move, but he's conscious, and his eyes kind of roll back open. He's staring up at her, and he says, shh, shh, it's all right. I'm sorry. This day till my last. This day till my last.
She doesn't say anything. She just kisses him very, very gently. And she's trying to stop herself, like half hugging him and half pulling him over, because she's both terrified and just happy he's alive at the same time, but keeping the pressure on his leg, and just like almost puts her arm around his neck to keep him in close. So it's just the two of them that can hear. We are going home right now. Fuck everything else. We are going home.
His eyes harden, and he says, oh, Mara, we're going to save our men.
You will die if you don't rest.
I will die
No.
protecting
No.
our house and the people
And
who
leaving
trusted
me
us.
to the vultures. You can't protect your house if you're dead. I can't protect this house without you. We can send riders for our army. We can get them to rally. We can go home. We can surrender.
I'm not going to our army, Mara. I'm going to Baelor's.
You can't even walk.
He rolls his head to the side to look to the two guards. Get me on a horse.
Don't listen to him.
They look between the two of you.
I mean it, not a single one of you move. You can't move. You can't ride. If you walk up to Baelor Targaryen like this, he will put a sword through you, like a knife through butter, and your death will have meant nothing. You will leave me unprotected, which leaves this house unprotected. You are serving nobody by doing that. 5 minutes ago, you were happy to go home.
5 minutes ago, I lied. We
You
have
don't do that. You don't
to
lie to
go
me.
to Baelor, and we have to surrender in person and make terms, and I need your help to do that, Mara.
You promise me that's what we're doing. You're not going to get in some fight. You're not going to pull a sword midway through and try to take a final swing. You don't lie to me, Samwell Tarly. You can lie to everybody else in this fucking realm, but you don't lie to me.
I'm going to lay down my sword and do what it takes to protect the Reach, just like we always have.
Promise me. Promise me. Like you promised me so many things in that Godswood. Look me in the eye and promise me that's what you're doing. Because I will never forgive you if you're lying to me about this.
You're hurting me, Mara. He kind of like pushes back a little bit and like gets just enough strength to put his gauntlet on the ground so he can push up just a bit to his elbow. He says, I promise you, we don't have any allies left, and I will not see our men slaughtered. It's over.
And then we go home. I don't care what terms you agree, but we go home.
Then we go home.
Both of us.
He nods.
Saddle
Enzo.
that horse.
Oh, sorry.
That's what she turns to the guards and tells them to ready the horses, basically.
Okay. Enzo, you lead your lady down into the dungeons. These are her dungeons, though. She is somewhat familiar with them, but you take her down and you lead her to the door that your interrogation subject has been kept alive in.
Okay. Do we have the keys to open it, or is there like a guard there to open it for us?
What would you like?
I'll be a guard.
Mhm.
I'm not doing
Go.
it myself.
There we go.
Okay.
God, don't touch these doors. Gross.
All right, so there is a guard that unlocks the door and opens it. And inside an almost pitch black cell, you can see through the light of the corridor a broken, middle-aged, athletic man. In the flicker of the torchlight, you can see the scar running across his cheek. To some, that looks like the Manda. To you, it looks like a scar, and luckily enough, it's got maybe 3 prongs to it.
Enzo will kind of walk in, and because there was a little table in there, they put all the tools that he used on, and there was probably, and he'll probably have a water jug with a small cup, and as he goes over to the table, it's most likely stained with like dried blood that was from him, and he'll pause a moment and take a deep breath and pop it down and pour a little cup and pop the cup in the middle of the floor and then step away and say, "This is for you, Jeffrey."
He looks up at you from behind some crumpled hair, his fringe kind of flopping about in his eyes. And he shakes, but he looks at the cup and then turns away.
Might be better to come from you.
She'll walk over and pick up the cup and slowly move towards him, almost like you'd approach an injured animal. Looking at the damage on him, looking at any bruises, any dirt, trying to take in what's happened. And this look of quiet compassion about her. And she'll sort of meet his eyes and tilt her head to the side and offer the drink.
And he says eventually, "Will it kill me?"
She'll turn to Enzo.
He'll shake his head.
No. It's just water.
He looks at you with an almost absolute distrust. But in spite of that, he takes it anyway and gulps down the whole cup.
She'll hold her hand out for the cup to take it away from him. And then slowly walk back and place it on the table with all the implements. Walk back again and just look him over. You know why you're here?
You've had it out of me already. Why do this again? Just let me go.
What kind of leader would I be if I didn't see with my own eyes? I want to believe you, but it doesn't make any sense what you're telling us.
And he like stares at you and he says, I promise you, by all of the 7 gods, and the old, and the rest, I was paid by Lady Elenia to deliver a letter to Lord Costane. As I said, I looked inside. It was orders for your father and your brother's executions. She just paid me. I promise.
You must have given it some thought over the years. Why somebody would do that to somebody who's fighting on their side, it doesn't make sense.
I never intended to play the Game of Thrones. I just needed some money. I wouldn't expect you to understand.
So you hadn't thought about it?
Tried not to think about the war.
Why?
Because it's a gruesome business.
Why?
Because death surrounds you.
Me? Look where you are.
You've had it all from me, please just let me go. And he repeats and he is literally begging to be let go.
She'll reach her hand over and just smooth his brow, smooth his hair down, and all right. Soon. And she'll turn back and walk back towards Enzo and give him a nod and just sit down on the table and watch.
And Enzo will kind of reach behind and take a knife out from his bag. And he'll kind of slowly approach. And he'll kneel down and look at him, playing with the knife in his hand. I know what you went through. Everything I did to you, I know, because I went through it too. The difference is that I broke a lot earlier than you. That's how I know it works. You don't have to worry about that now. And with kind of like quick thing, he will just slice his throat very quickly. It's the quickest way to, or whatever the quickest way to kill a person is that Enzo would know, whether it's through the heart or throat or whatever, whichever way.
He just slit his throat, and he, after a gasp and just his eyes staring at you as he falls and he dies, He flops to the floor in front of you, his eyes still wide and piercing in death.
You'll kind of get up and head on over to the table with a jug of water and just pour the water out over the blade to get the blood off, and kind of just use just a piece of cloth just to dry it, and he'll put the knife back behind him in the sheath behind him, and he'll turn to Faye. Well,
Thank you. She'll smooth his forehead, his hair, the same way she had that. The prisoners, that look of pity for what he's been through.
well, I said I made a promise that I'd stick with you to find out who did this. And even though I am a pirate, I do keep my promises. I'm not going anywhere.
She'll just stare down at the pool of blood, slowly growing around that body, and grasp his hand.
And Enzo will grasp it really tight. And for a few moments, you'll see his eyes well up. And then he'll just give her like just a big hug. And he'll kind of just rest his head on her shoulder. And it's just one of those hugs where you just don't want to let go.
Yeah. She'll stand there kind of almost like a statue, almost hypnotized by that pool of blood. She's not used to that. And just stroking his hair, trying to be comforting, and just eyes fixed on that pool of blood.
We should probably get out of here. This atmosphere does not suit either of us. And he'll let Faye go first. And he'll look back into the cell, looking at the guy whose eyes still looking at him. And as Enzo looks at him, he'll subconsciously kind of like touch his back just a little bit, where all the scars have been from, and shake his head, and then just close the door.
Okay. Miria.
Hello.
Hello. Later that evening, after the merriment's kind of died down a bit, and you're considering bed at this point, the pirate that you know as Aurora, takes a moment of your time. And she says, "My lady, perhaps I could have a word."
Of course. Let's take in some of the night air, and we'll have a little walk. I imagine there's like a nice little courtyard in House Ironwood, with like some fronds and greenery.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you're taking an evening stroll, still with your cane, and she's just kind of striding next to you. You are you're heading towards the Reach, aren't you? Northwest? I
Yes.
heard Lord Jourdain speak of his plans. I would ask something of you.
What is it?
I would ask that I would accompany you. Lord Jourdain would say he needs me for his fleet and perhaps his return to Sunspear. But that is not necessarily true. I have heard word of my brother being wrapped up in all this. A pirate by the name of Enzo Sal.
Yes, I'm quite familiar with him.
Are you?
Hmm?
Well, that is funny. I would like to try and see him again. We have been separated for so long. Truth be told, I took to the seas to find him or follow him somehow. It would be good to finally see him again.
You know, it's funny. He always used to say how he was this dashing, daring pirate, and he promised he had a ship, but I never saw it. I always wondered if they were just tales of a drunkard, but
I have only ever heard tales too. I was far too young when we were separated to see any of his adventures, but I do hope for a family reunion, at least.
he never really ever spoke about his family. Do you mind if I ask what happened?
It's a difficult story. There is some slavery involved and an escape. It's perhaps best for a campfire night on the road.
I see. I see.
But I would be
But
honored
still-
to join you.
I would be honored to have you. As far as I know, he is still alive and well. He was at Fox Hollow when I was there in the Red Mountains. I don't know quite what happened to him afterwards, but if I know Enzo Sal, and I'm pretty sure that I do after the years I got to know him, he'll be somewhere with a wine bottle in hand, crooning after some poor serving wench and having a great time.
I'm glad if he is. It sounds a lot nicer than the war we have had to endure.
I must warn you, though, where we're going, we are most likely not going to be a welcomed guest. It will not be an easy journey.
I am used to both of these things.
All right. And traveling via land, too, no ships.
That you will have to show me.
All right. Well, we intend to gather the men pretty quickly and head off within the next few days. The sooner we make our way, then the better, I think.
Of course. Let me know when. I will be there.
All right. In the meantime, please enjoy yourself.
Thank you. Okay, it was brief, but I've only got one last thing to wrap up with. So, Mara, as you and your guards and Samuel spend another day riding as quickly as you can with Samuel on the back of a horse, you crest a hill, and finally, after a couple of days for yourself and a day or so of Samuel traveling westward. You see in the distance several campfires. And in the kind of dying light of the evening, you can see just beyond that some soldiers, like a little marching flank of troops, carrying the strangely patterned banner of 2 silvered cups, 2 black roses, quartered yellow and black. And it seems as if Lord Costain is nearby somewhere.
That fucker. And this is just Costain. There's no.
You see those
Is it just
banners, and you see the campfires that are a bit closer towards you. But those campfires, like, there's no tent set up, there's no organized, like, host. But there are bodies, there are soldiers sat and stood around those fires. Most likely hoping that whichever enemy is theirs, whether they're loyalists or whether they're your own forces, they don't want to be set upon by another raid.
I feel like Mara stops the horse at the top of this hill. And would Samuel ride with her or with one of her knights?
That's up to you.
You'd ride with her. Yeah. Maybe flanked by their knights.
She stops the horse and she sees the 2 cups, and I guess she probably knows that Costain didn't show up to the battle because he wasn't there when everybody left for the fight. And she curses under her breath something terrible and gently, trying not to like jerk her movements too much, leans back into Samuel. Do we keep riding for Baelor? Or do we stop here?
He squints to kind of the dying light in the distance, those campfires. Is there any way to determine any hint of which side this army is?
Quite possibly. Roll me a awareness notice check. It's going to be quite difficult to get a hint, get a clue.
I'm going to guess that I get a -4.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. No. I mean, you're just from the pain, you're not, it's like a migraine. You're not shifting in and out of consciousness, but it's just so fuzzy, your head, that you're just kind of swaying back and forth, trying to kind of, you can just about, just through the pain, make out that there are people moving in between those campfires. To you, for a second, in your blurred vision, they maybe look like fireflies or something. Or even,
it doesn't look
children
like
of the forest or something.
It doesn't look like the banners elsewhere are connected, like that's a separate force or something.
That's right.
Just he just whispers weakly, distantly, into the back of your head as you're riding home. We're almost home. We have to keep going.
Mara kind of takes a moment, looks out at those banners, those silver cups, and briefly for a second thinks of Alistair, the cups that Costain gave them both on their wedding day. And there's a deep, uncomfortable feeling that she hasn't come to terms with yet about what just happened back there hours ago. And there's a bit of her that in this moment is like, doesn't want to trust those 2 silvered cups because they have been laced with poison before. And there's a bit of her mind that tells her that Costain outlived his usefulness to her a long time ago. And although a bit of her wants to stop because a camp means rest and a camp means healers, if this is a loyalist force, we probably don't want to be here. We want to be where Baelor is, because he's the person we want to talk to. And if it's a Blackfyre force, we definitely don't want to be here if we're going to be attempting to surrender, because they're not going to want to do that. And Mara's heart breaks a little that they're not stopping at this camp, because it means Samuel's not going to get any rest tonight as we keep riding. But without saying anything, she kind of nods back, places her hand back on his leg in some kind of reassurance, and pulls the horse away from the camp and keeps going towards where I assume we roughly know Baelor's camp would be at this point.
Okay. From behind you, without a line of sight on it, you hear a little of greetings, cautious greetings from where the camp was. But you've turned away and down the hill now, and you're heading where Hunter and the rest of the guards think the pursuing army of your old Tarly host might be coming from. And you can't help but wonder if that was friend or foe. But the kind of cautious greeting that you hear echo in the night doesn't give you any particular answer.
I don't think Mara even thinks about it. She hears the greeting and just keeps going.
And you pulling Samuel on that horse through the night is where we will finish up this session. Thank you very much, friends. We got through almost all of the stuff I have. Well, we did actually get through all the stuff I have, but of course I had the idea that it would lead on to a couple of other little final things. So I definitely think that we've got the last session coming up next week, or if not, then the week after or something like that. So yeah, all very exciting. And you all throw me some little curveballs as well tonight, so I'm very impressed. Thank you very much. Didn't quite all go as I anticipated. I thought maybe I could kill Don again, but apparently not. Never mind. Let's go over to you now, actually. You're first on my list. Hello.
I'm not convinced that Samuel can survive. He definitely can't survive another endurance test. Mathematically, he cannot. So, but I'm excited to get to keep writing, keep pushing forward. I want to see where the story ends. I really enjoyed tonight. I wasn't sure how I was going to play the Alistair situation unless swords got drawn. I knew where Samuel stood, when push came to shove, and the rest can be a mystery, I guess. But it was kind of cathartic to kill Alistair. No matter Samuel's feelings, I think he sucks. And I really love how you played him. I thought the last few sessions with Alistair were really, really great for his character. And I did feel a little bit of sympathy for him, despite my earlier hatred. And that was just great role playing. It was cool. I loved everybody's scenes today. I loved Faye getting to find out maybe if it's true about the Tyrells being involved with her family's murder. That's huge. And I loved, of course, down in Dorne, no rest for the Ironwoods. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens next and just kind of finish out the story and see where we all end up. I know it won't be the end for some characters unless we all die. They'll have more stories after this, but this story, I'm really excited to see how it ends.
Can you imagine? I was just TPK at the end. Fuck it.
Yeah, I can.
What?
Easily.
How dare you? Oh my god. Okay. Well, thank you so much. You were a fantastic scene partner as usual. So yeah, always appreciate it. And V as well. Oh my god. How you doing?
That was juicy. I was not expecting it to go that way, and I feel just a little bit sorry for Alistair.
Good.
Yeah, I had a feeling this scene was coming up because we talked about it, and I had no idea where that was going to go. And I always forget how quietly angry Mara can get until it's happening. She's like this whole other thing in the back of my head somewhere that takes over. But that was amazing. And I kind of feel bad because I feel like Samuel might have been able to talk Mara around into something, especially because there was the whole "we're going home." Mara might have just been like, fuck it, I can deal with this when we get home, kind of thing.
Yeah, like it felt
because there's a bit of her that's
close.
like, he did bring him back, but as soon as he mentioned Old Oak, I was like, I'm not going back there. That's not my home. You can come to Horn Hill if that's what we have to do here to get us all to go in one direction. But then he went and tried to put a sword through her, so she wasn't wrong when she said that he would turn, not so much for the Targaryens, but
yeah,
thank fuck for that wonderful wedding gift of armor.
But it was an accident, right? And that's the thing. Like, I don't think we could possibly know that, but Alistair didn't mean to stab her, right? That's how I understood it, out of character.
Oh, full disclosure, in the meta, it was an absolute Mara's going with him, or it was murder-suicides. Or murders-suicide.
Gotcha.
That was what was going to happen. Yeah.
I think that's the thing Mara was a little bit afraid of after his constant, like, I came back for you. Like, oh, no, this is weird, creepy, stalkerish behavior. Not okay with this. No, I no longer belong to you. I've got papers that prove it. But yeah, I honestly didn't know if Samuel would kill him. And Mara was really trying to stop it because she could see in that moment that Samuel really did care about him, and she was like, she could have just been like, kill him, but didn't. And I think she feels bad, but afterwards she realized that she probably wouldn't have had him killed, even though she threatened to. And now Samuel's had to kill this man that she very clearly has an answer to the question she hasn't been asking for years of whether or not he did still love Alistair. And she feels awful. But she can't think about that right now. She can't think about that right now because now we apparently have to go to Baelor and surrender, and she's like 99.9% sure that Samuel isn't lying to her. That 1% though.
Oh, that little smile. Ugh.
If you get there as well to Baelor,
it's going to be
intrigue.
Mara. It's going to be Mara. Mara's going to be the one that kills Samuel.
Maybe put him on that horse.
Yeah, she's not the best rider. I think it's really funny because I feel like in the little like headcanon we all thought up about our characters, Don and I have talked about it, that Samuel kind of had to teach Mara how to ride. She was like, what do you mean I can't just get in a carriage after 2 hours? So that'll be terrible. I don't know if I've been up against Baelor before in Intrigue, and it wasn't fun. I think I lasted 3 rounds.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Wrecked.
He's a big boy, but he's honourable. So surrender is not a bad shout, really.
Is Mara's counting on that, hopefully, because she doesn't think that Samuel's in really any condition to be making deals or negotiations because he's fucked. So there's a good chance she tries to do that without him, lest he do something stupid.
Baelor.
If he wasn't a Targ, I'd love him.
Speaking of, Susie, you got your marching orders again.
No rest for the wicked, I guess, huh?
Going back into those Red Mountains.
I know, it's such a stupid idea. It's fucking suicide. And Mary's like, this is suicide. We're gonna die or get captured. Like, this is what the fuck are we supposed to do? I know the Order are like the best knights that ever lived TM, but fucking Christ. And all Jordan had to do was like, well, if I were you, I'd have a reason. And she's like, fuck, because she's still hung up on a stupid boy. Mario. So I take her by the shoulders and shake her lightly and just be like, don't do this. Just go that way, not this way. But yeah, fuck. And it was a really juicy session. And I feel like we all me excluded, because Miria's obviously never done a thing wrong in her life, and forget the bit last time where she asked someone to kill a child for her, showed how much of monsters we are this week. Like the torture scene, like that murdering of the poor fucking guy was extremely sinister. Like Faye, that's some fucked up shit. Some fucked up shit. Brushing his brow gently and then doing it to Enzo straight afterwards. What is wrong with you? Ugh.
It was comforting, wasn't it, Enzo?
Anab,
Good boy.
all nobles are bastards.
Some of us a bit more bastards than others, but you know. But yeah, I can't wait until next week where I inevitably die.
Sweet.
I feel it.
Yeah.
Mm.
You've always found a way. Always found a way. Millie. Sinister Millie.
What?
Quiet and not
Look,
assuming.
I mean, she's been sitting knowing that her family got brutally murdered for no fucking reason for a very long time, and she's a bit cross. She's also quite compassionate, so I think in her fucked up head, that was like the nicest way she could go about that. Like,
Yeah.
getting the information out of him she needed to trust that her next steps weren't being done stupidly, but simultaneously not being a complete twat about it. I don't know. But also, there's like a little part of her that might be quite into getting good at that. Because she's got bigger fish to fry right now, and if Costain goes anywhere near her, he's going to start losing parts.
You wanted a conspiracy.
Yeah, I did.
Gave you a conspiracy.
I did. I just felt kind of bad, like confronting a torture victim about it. Just like, you see how that doesn't make sense, though, right? Well, you've never thought about this? You just sort of like, la la la, took some money. Okay, cool.
Needs must sometimes, and not everyone's, that canny with the old
Yep.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it was rough rocking up to Golden Grove singing it like that, though. Rotting apples, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they've had to hunker down, But
Aw.
you've got some little sneaky boys in Highgarden still, right? They're on the
Yeah.
map,
Yeah.
and they've not been tapped, so
We'll have
definitely
word.
get some intel. Yeah.
Yes, plus.
Absolutely.
Now I can. Now I know things.
Yeah, now you've got some more pieces of the puzzle. Absolutely. And Tom.
Hello.
Oh my god. I wasn't expecting the little slit throat. I thought we were going to be ready for another little, not torture scene, but like, round 2.
Well, I was kind of like, when Millie kind of went and just nodded, I was like, okay, what does she want me to do?
Yeah,
and I just
It's like at the beginning of an acting scene, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, in your own time.
in your own. Okay, what? I don't know where this is going, so I'm just going to pick a thing and go with it and hope this is what it was. But also at the same time, Enzo would think that nod is just kill him, because he wasn't getting out of there alive. He just wasn't,
Poor bug.
And Enzo knew that he wasn't getting anything more out of him. So I guess it was like a kind of, well, I hope she meant put him out of his misery. Otherwise, this is going to be somewhat awkward conversation upstairs. Yeah. No, it was
about that
good.
prisoner. We need to
Yeah.
work on our communication skills, I think.
Right. Okay. So a nod isn't kill them?
I mean,
Right.
not always.
Not always.
Not always.
Okay. We're going to need
If
to
I
work
just nod
on...
at you in passing, it doesn't mean kill everybody. You do know that, right?
Right. We're going to have to work on that because I'm getting mixed signals here. We'll work on it. We'll workshop it.
Workshop it. Oh
But
my
it was
gosh.
cracking episode. I loved it. I loved all that. I was waiting for the Alistair, Samuel, and Mara thing. I just didn't know how it was going to go. I knew it was going to blow up in one way. I just didn't know how it was going to blow up. And I was very satisfied with how it blew up. There was only one thing, right? I would have liked it if Mara agreed and said, okay, right? Now, I don't think that was ever going to happen, right? I knew that. But there's something like just those three together slowly dying. There's never been a more just way for them to go, right? You know what I mean? Where they're literally slowly killing each other. Like, it's just going to be like one of those nights where it's just someone flips. It's just those three, and it ends up with just knives going everywhere, and it just ends up all of them dead. Like, you know, someone stabs someone, and then the other one goes, oh, and then a knife goes and hits another one, and it's just a disaster. That was my...
this close to saying yes, and then Alistair tried to shove a sword through her.
It was if he said okay to House Tarly, right? You would have said okay.
She might have turned around and been like, you know what? Yes, because it's home.
Yeah.
We can deal with this problem later. I can kill him later, but it's home. It's away from this war. And then he went and shoved a sword through her. So that became a no real quick.
You know.
Look, you don't need 2 kidneys. You know, you can get by with one.
You still got one. You're fine.
It'll be fine.
You're fine. It's just, what could possibly go wrong with 2 incredibly wounded individuals on horseback riding towards an enemy army? What could go wrong?
We've got some knights. Be fine.
Yeah.
And a plan.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much, folks. Well, we'll have to wait until next week to find out what happens in the final episode of our campaign. Thank you very much for watching. Yep, that's me in the chat. And we'll be back next week with more Spy Game on Wednesdays and this on Thursdays. Maybe probably just on Susie's channel some Crusader Queens or some Crusader Kings, whatever we're up to. What happened to Gregor? Good point. We'll have to... What? Hang on. Wait. He did a thing, right? He ran off somewhere? I can't remember.
Sam will put him in charge of carrying out his orders in his absence when he rode to fight Baelor and the Kingsguard.
Cool. Good to remember. Thanks for that. I'll write that down. And we'll find out what happens to Gregor. And more importantly, Sutlok. At the end of this campaign. Just dead.
Just inherits Sutlok inherits House Tarly after Mara and Sam will kick the bucket.
Opening scene next week. Miria is enjoying a roast chicken. And just a cluck. Fucking chicken's dead. It's my dinner.
All right. Well, until then, friends, we're out. So see you later. Look after yourselves. Bye.